My name is David. I'm just an average office worker. I'm not really into standing out, so I'm pretty quiet at the office. I just get through the work given to me, and if I finish without mistakes, I consider it a job well done. While my colleagues are hustling to climb the corporate ladder, I'm not really interested in promotions. I just hope for a peaceful day, every day. Luckily, I ended up working for a top-tier company. I rarely have to work overtime, and I think my salary is pretty decent compared to others at my age. My days are pretty much the same. I just go to work and come home every day. Cook up a simple meal, enjoy my dinner while watching TV, and then head to bed. But maybe this monotonous life is what happiness is all about. That's what I've been thinking. I don't have a family anymore. Both my parents have passed away. I still remember that time. I was in second grade. That day, both my parents had the day off, and they went out in their car, saying they had some major shopping to do. They said they'd be back by the time I got home from school, but they weren't back by evening. As night fell, a neighbor lady, Mrs. Wilson, approached me. I had been sitting in front of the house for hours, so she probably got concerned. When I explained the situation, she took me to the nearby police station. I don't know what Mrs. Wilson told them, but I remember the police suddenly getting very busy. They told me that my parents might have been in an accident. I was taken to the hospital by the police. However, upon arrival, I was told the devastating news that both my parents had died. The only thing I remember from the hospital was seeing the bodies of my mom and dad. I can't recall what happened after, like the funeral or what happened to our house. Maybe the mental shock was too big, as I seemed to have lost some of my memories. Next thing I knew, I was in an orphanage. I had no grandparents or relatives, so I had nowhere else to go. There were other kids in the facility, but I didn't really interact with them. I just followed the rules set by the staff and kept to myself. I stayed at the orphanage until I turned 18 and moved out after graduating high school. Maybe I should go to college was my main thought. With that in mind, I went on to college. Thanks to the savings and insurance money left by my parents, I could attend college without financial worries. Go to school, work a part-time job, come home and sleep. I became less talkative after my parents' death, and that hasn't changed even now as an adult. I guess I've always avoided interacting with people. Being bad at expressing my emotions probably didn't help. I've never really had close friends, let alone a significant other, mostly just acquaintances. I had always thought I'd probably end up being single, and I was okay with being alone. Even though I was just living an ordinary life, something unexpected happened one day. I'll never forget it. It was when I turned 30. On that day, I was working as usual. Things were going smoothly, and I was having a rather laid-back day. I decided to get some office supplies from the supply cabinet. To my surprise, we were running low on a lot of items. Normally, the newer employees would restock the supplies, but I thought, since I had some time, why not do it myself? So I said, I've got some free time, I'll go get the supplies, and headed to the supply room. As I switched on the light and entered the room, I began to load up a cart with supplies for my list. Then, a woman from another department walked in. Our eyes met, and we gave each other a courteous nod. Wow, a pretty girl just walked in. That's what crossed my mind instantly. It wasn't a crush or anything, but I found myself wondering, is she from the next department? I don't recall such a pretty girl working here. Taking a closer look, she had these cute beauty marks under her eyes, which made her already cool-looking eyes appear even more attractive. No, don't keep staring. It'd be so embarrassing if she caught me. I realized I'd been unintentionally staring and felt a rush of embarrassment. Taking a brief, deep breath, I composed myself and went back to collecting the supplies. But then, it happened. Suddenly, there was a deep rumbling sound, followed by a strong side-to-side shake. It was an earthquake. The shaking grew more intense. Being in the supply room, there was a high risk of things falling down. The spot where she and I were located was at the back of the supply room. The exit was too far, and with the intense shaking, it felt too risky to make a dash for it. Cover your head. Use a basket or turn a box upside down and protect yourself, I shouted instinctively. The tremor felt like it lasted forever, but thanks to the fixed shelves in the supply room, a major disaster was avoided. Supplies were scattered all over the place, but neither of us got hurt. "Are you okay?" I rushed over and asked her. She seemed fine, replying, "Yay, that was quite a shock. It lasted quite a while, didn't it?" She slowly got up and added, "It's quite a mess here, but maybe we should head outside first and check on others." Concerned about potential aftershocks and with the supply room door still closed, I started heading towards the door. "Oops, sorry." She bumped into my back. "Something wrong, though." Looking at the storage room door, I was taken aback and stood there. She leaned over from behind me and was equally stunned. To our disbelief, cardboard boxes that had been piled near the door had collapsed, blocking our exit and the path to the door. To make matters worse, it seemed a box had opened, scattering promotional items all over the place. "We can't get out this way. Should we clean this up?" She agreed with a sigh. I started moving the heavier boxes, asking her to pick up the lighter promotional items. "Why of all places did it have to block the door?" She complained, but continued neatly placing the scattered items back into the boxes. "Just hang on a bit longer. We'll clear a path to the door soon." I rolled up my sleeves, ready for some heavy lifting. "All right, once we move this, we can get the door open." At last, we cleared a path to the door. Thinking we could finally leave, I twisted the doorknob and pushed. Thud. "Huh?" A dull noise echoed, and despite several attempts, the door would only open a few inches. "This isn't good," I murmured to myself. Peeking through the small gap in the door, I saw a cart loaded with supplies blocking it from the other side. Other boxes had fallen over in the corridor, making it even harder to access. The cardboard boxes and cart had gotten jammed in such a way that the door wouldn't open. I tried jostling the door multiple times, but it wouldn't budge. "We're stuck," I sighed, feeling a wave of despair. But on the bright side, other co-workers are still around. Someone will eventually come, so I decided to team up with her and start cleaning up the scattered promotional items and supplies. "We really got trapped, huh?" she teased, noticing my involuntary sighs, and said in a cheery voice. "Yeah, I really thought we'd get out," I responded, laughing. However, our conversation was brief. We silently continued our tasks. As I was thinking we were nearly done, an unmistakable growling sound broke the silence. I turned my head towards the sound. She looked embarrassed as she held her stomach. "That was mine. Did you hear that?" Her face turned beet red with embarrassment. "Yes, I heard it loud and clear." I said it honestly, and we both burst out laughing. Although we were strangers, that little moment of laughter lightened the mood. While continuing to tidy up, we chatted a bit and shared our names and departments. Her name was Sarah, 4 years younger than me, and she worked in the department next to mine. As we talked, a voice from the other side of the door called out, "Hey, is anyone there?" Peeking through the gap in the door, a voice said, "Hold on, we'll clear the way." A few folks moved carts and other obstacles, enabling our safe exit. Luckily, the earthquake's damage was minimal, just some items had fallen from shelves and desks. By the next day, we were back to normal. From then on, my days were filled with routine work. Yet, I would often bump into Sarah, whom I'd met in the storage room, in the hallway, lobby, or the staff cafeteria. I hadn't realized it before, but we had crossed paths frequently within the company. We began greeting each other whenever we met. One day during lunch, while I was eating in the cafeteria, Sarah approached, asking, "Mind if I join you?" We took that opportunity to express our gratitude for that day we spent trapped together. It seemed we never found the right moment to stop and talk about it before. Sarah also wanted to thank me, saying, "I'm so glad you were there with me that day. I'm not sure if I could have gotten out if I was alone in the storage room. You really saved me." From then on, I often chatted with Sarah. Due to our lunch breaks frequently overlapping, we'd often eat together or have coffee afterwards. Though I was always a bit shy and struggled to converse, Sarah was always proactive in starting conversations, so there was never a lull. Eventually, we began to occasionally dine out in the evenings. It felt strange for a socially awkward guy like me to be out and about, engaging in so much conversation. Somehow, I just clicked with Sarah. After one of our meals, Sarah opened up about her feelings for me. It was the first time that someone confessed to me like that. I was taken aback, but that's when I realized my own feelings. Soon, Sarah and I started dating. Things moved swiftly, and before we knew it, we were discussing marriage. After a successful proposal, I visited Sarah's parents. On the day of the visit, Sarah's parents, who also lived with her older brother and his wife, warmly welcomed us. While I had planned for a brief visit, they insisted on having dinner together, making me feel right at home. Being a man of few words, I barely answer the family's questions. They even inquired about my family. I answered all their questions honestly. However, a few days after the visit, I received a message from Sarah. Apparently, Sarah's sister-in-law, Lisa, wanted to have a word with me. I wondered if they might be against our marriage, but that wasn't the case. I was told we'd discuss the matter in person, so a meeting was arranged between Sarah, Lisa, and me. On the appointed day, we met at a quiet cafe. Let me get straight to the point. Lisa began, then started asking detailed questions about my mother. When she passed away, her name, maiden name, place of birth, blood type, and more. She also inquired why I didn't have any grandparents or relatives. I answered everything within my knowledge. After a pause, she said, "Look at these photos. Does this woman look like your mother?" She showed me 2 pictures of a young woman who unmistakably resembled my mom. After confirming the resemblance, she took another breath and asked, "You're an only child, right?" When I replied yes, Lisa gave a quiet nod. She took another deep breath and said, "Let me tell you the truth about you," looking me straight in the eye. Confused, I waited for her next words. "This woman, she's my mother." Lisa's lips trembled as she spoke. I was in disbelief, asking her to repeat herself over and over. But she was unequivocal. "She's my mother." What does that mean? I tried to organize my thoughts as I listened to Lisa's story. Lisa had been told she was an orphan and was raised by her grandparents. One day, while cleaning up, she found a photograph. When she showed it to her grandmother, she hesitated at first but eventually admitted that the woman in the photo was Lisa's mother. She also explained why Lisa had been separated from her parents. To start with, Lisa had a brother 2 years her senior. Their mother became pregnant with him at 16. Both parents were the same age, meaning the father was also 16 at the time. The mother was determined to have the child, and the father intended to marry her when he turned 18. However, this was met with strong opposition from the mother's parents. These grandparents were strict and believed in strict adherence to family traditions. Yet, the young mother persisted and gave birth at the age of 16. Afterward, while juggling jobs having dropped out of high school, she entrusted childcare either to daycares or her parents. The father, on the other hand, continued attending high school while working part-time jobs to make ends meet. Both were genuinely committed to raising their child. Despite the continuing objections from the grandparents, the young couple had decided they would marry once they turned 18. Then, Lisa was conceived. The news infuriated the grandparents, but the baby was eventually born. This birth took place when both parents were 18 and they intended to register their marriage that very year. However, the grandparents staunchly opposed, especially against the father, whom they perceived as the culprit for their daughter's teenage pregnancy. Frictions became a daily affair, primarily revolving around the children's future and caregiving. They chastised their young daughter, often remarking, "You're just a child who had a child. Listen to what we say." Still, the determined mother, aiming to keep her family intact, was met with a stern "leave the kids and get out. You're disowned." Numerous attempts were made to reconcile, and she tried taking her children with her, but the grandparents stood firm. Ultimately, she was estranged without any contact with her children. I was shocked to learn about the tumultuous past of my parents. And the fact that I had a sibling was a revelation to me. Incidentally, the grandfather has since passed away, and the grandmother, though still alive, is now in a nursing home. Lisa, without mentioning anything about me, had inquired again about her mother. Moreover, given that our grandmother's surname was quite unique, she was certain that they were blood-related. The week after hearing this story, I, along with Sarah and Lisa, visited our mother's childhood home. Presently, my elder brother's family is living in our grandmother's house, and it was the first time I was introduced to him. Following that, Lisa and I went to the nursing home where our grandmother resided. Although hesitant to meet her at first, we decided to have a conversation. Initially, our grandmother couldn't believe my existence and was taken aback, but noticing the resemblance I bore to my mother, she mentioned how much I looked like her. Our grandmother was unaware that my mother had married my father, and she certainly had no knowledge of the tragic car accident that took my mother's life. Hearing this, tears streamed down our grandmother's face. She deeply regretted disowning her daughter due to parental pride and expressed her desire to apologize if given a chance to meet her daughter again. The town where my mother and Lisa grew up was quite a distance from my current residence, yet little did I know, my sister lived so close by. That year was not just significant for meeting Sarah, but also for discovering and connecting with blood relatives like my siblings and grandmother. Fast forward a few years. "Daddy." "No, Dad's playing with me." "Daddy, Daddy." All right, let's all play together, okay?" I was surrounded by my children, unable to move. My kids really love their daddy. Oh, and don't get me started on me. I'm crazy about him too. Sarah teased as she too hugged me. "Come on, Sarah, not you too." Everyone giggles and clings to me. Now 38, I'm living a lively life with my 3 beloved sons and my cherished wife, Sarah. And we're soon expecting our 4th child. Since then, I've been in touch with my sister living nearby, and her 3 sons and my children play together as if they were siblings. Though my elder brother lives far away, we, along with my sister's family, visit him annually during the summer break without fail. Interestingly, my brother and I have similar facial features, and even more intriguing is how much my brother's children resemble younger me. When we look closely, All the children share striking similarities. We all look as if we were born from the same parents. We often jest. The bond of blood is indeed mysterious. Despite never having lived together with my siblings, our interactions felt natural from the start. Given how I was never adept at social interactions, me being able to interact well with my siblings surprises me. Having once believed I would live a life of solitude, never did I imagine that in just a few years, I would be surrounded by the warmth of a family. Life truly is unpredictable. I aim to cherish this unexpected happiness.